Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News Weekend. We're about 1/3 of the way through this federal election, and most of the party leaders were in Winnipeg this past week, including Liberal leader Mark Carney, who in between talks of tariffs and affordability was questioned about his commitments to Indigenous peoples this election. APTN's Sierra Bettens starts us off tonight.
On day 10 of the 2025 campaign, Liberal leader Mark Carney made a stop in Winnipeg, home to the largest urban Indigenous population in the country. However, his itinerary did not include a policy announcement for Indigenous peoples or public meetings with them. While taking questions, Carney was asked what that signaled about his party's stance on reconciliation.
On the day that I was sworn in, acknowledged the fundamental role of First Nations, Inuit and Métis peoples to the founding of our country. Within 2.5 days, I was in Iqaluit with the Premier and meeting First Nations. The Inuit people and the Métis. Within the first week, I met with all the leaders of the Indigenous organizations. Within the first week, we announced as a government the doubling and the broadening of the Indigenous loan program.
Carney has spoken extensively about speeding up mineral extraction and energy projects during his campaign. APTN asked how he plans to affirm First Nations' right to consultation and accommodation.
And when I speak of projects of national interest, when I speak of, for example, critical mineral extraction, which is a tremendous opportunity for this country, but can only proceed if there is free, prior, and informed consent. Only proceed, in my judgment, if there's full participation from First Nations groups.
APTN has requested an interview with Carney on multiple occasions throughout his Liberal leadership and 2025 federal election campaign. He has never been made available. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh also visited Winnipeg this past week. His itinerary included meeting with the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Kyra Wilson and the Keewatin Tribal Council. Here again is Sierra Bettens with more.
After federal Liberal leader Mark Carney's campaign stopped in Winnipeg on Tuesday, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh spent Wednesday in the city. When asked for his election pitch to Indigenous voters at an announcement this morning, Singh said the NDP will fight to advance Indigenous rights.
I've shown Indigenous communities that your concerns, that your rights, your treaty rights are a priority. We fought to make sure we had the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, and now we're going to fight to make sure it's implemented.
The NDP holds seats in several ridings where Indigenous voters have considerable pull. NDP MP Nikki Ashton currently holds a seat for Churchill-Keewatin-Aski, where 75% of residents identify as Indigenous, according to 2021 census data. And according to 2021 federal election data analysis released by the Assembly of First Nations on Friday, that riding also had the highest difference between the number of First Nations electors and the winning candidate's margin of victory of any riding in Canada. Anishinaabe candidate Rebecca Chartrand is running for the Liberals in that riding, and Lachlan Denardy for the Conservatives. Later in the morning, Singh met with the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Kyra Wilson and the Keewatin Tribal Council to discuss election priorities.
We've been raising our concern about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, and how it is a shame in our country that Indigenous women and girls continue to lose their lives, to be killed. We've been fighting to say that the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action have to be implemented.
According to the latest Ipsos polling data, support for federal NDP is at 9%. To maintain official party status in the House of Commons, the NDP must secure at least 12 seats. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
To other news now, and the chief of the Liard First Nation in southern Yukon is being criticized by several members of his council. Last year, the same members of council said they lost confidence in his leadership. Now they have a new set of allegations against him. Here's Sarah Connors with the latest.
Liard First Nation council members are accusing Chief Stephen Charlie of attempting to use band resources to pay for a lawyer for his brother-in-law. The allegations about Charlie stem from a band council resolution shared on social media by 5 other members of council. In February, Councillor Susan Megan's partner, Perry Wolftail, was ticketed for wasting meat under the territory's Wildlife Act. Liard's deputy chief told APTN News Megan is Chief Charlie's sister. The resolution states Charlie, Megan, and Councillor Ed Broadhagen held a meeting on March 17th where they approved retaining legal counsel for Wolftail's charge. It also authorized Charlie and Wolftail to instruct the law firm regarding the defense of the charge. But the First Nations Deputy Chief Harlan Schilling believes that's a conflict of interest and an inappropriate use of band resources. Schilling says the rest of council was not informed of the meeting, nor was proper quorum reached, and that Charlie ultimately dropped the resolution after receiving pushback from council.
Stephen tried to tell us that, this was done transparently with all of council, and it's just blatantly, we had to say, no, this was not.
APTN National News reached out to Charlie, but he declined to comment. This isn't the first time he's come under fire. Last fall, the same members of his council said they had lost confidence in Charlie's leadership, accusing him of workplace bullying, ethical violations, and several other allegations. In December, over 100 band members attended a community vote to remove Charlie from his position, but so far, those efforts haven't been successful. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
As the Indigenous community in Winnipeg continues to process the news of a search of a second landfill, leaders are starting to work together to expand that search to include another First Nations woman that is believed to have ended up there over a decade ago. With more, here's T.R. Wheatley and a warning some of these details may be upsetting to viewers.
The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs are making a public plea to include Tanya Nepinak in the humanitarian search of a city-owned landfill just 6 days after a second search site was announced to look for one of 4 First Nations women brutally murdered by a serial killer in spring 2022. Winnipeg Police, the province, First Nations leaders, and MMIWG families came together on March 26 to say Muscadet Bejike Ikwe was identified as Ashley Shingus, and a search of the Brady landfill south of Winnipeg would happen soon to try recover her remains.
The update that we're here to provide will undoubtedly trigger strong emotions.
Emotions all too familiar for another family that attended and left early as they were reminded of their missing loved one believed to have been killed by another serial killer over 13 years ago. It's believed that Tanya Nepinak also ended up in the Brady landfill. On what would have been Tanya's 45th birthday, her family and advocates took to the streets with renewed calls to search for her.
Consider the landfills as a crime scene and stop putting trash on our loved ones.
She was 31 years old when she was last seen on September 13th, 2011. In June 2012, Sean Lamb was charged with second-degree murder for Tanya, but those charges were later stayed. He went to prison for killing 2 other Indigenous women. Derek Nepinak is the chief of Minnegojabi Anishinaabe and a relative of Tanya. He was also AMC Grand Chief back when she went missing. He said in the fall of 2012, WPS searched the landfill for roughly a week.
But determined very quickly that it was beyond the scale and the magnitude that they could do at the time. We had difficulty accepting that. I have been quietly speaking with other leadership, saying, you cannot proceed with a search of any of the landfills without including Tanya Nepinak. I know her children need this to happen. I know her former partner, Vernon, needs this to happen.
Answering questions from reporters last week, AMC Grand Chief Kyra Wilson said her organization hasn't forgotten about Tanya.
Of course, this is a conversation that we do need to have. And what I will say today is, we hear a strong message that we don't leave anybody behind.
Manitoba's premier was also asked about whether or not the search at Brady landfill would include Tanya. He didn't flat out say no. Instead, he asked that the public continue to support the Shingus family as they process the news. There's no expected timeline yet as to when the search at Brady will happen or what it will look like. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
A racist post from 4 years ago was making the rounds on social media again. We'll bring you the bizarre story behind the posts and more after the break. Welcome back to Nova Scotia now, where the elver fishery season is now open. And that's where Mi'kmaq nations are harvesting elvers under their own management plan without DFO authorization. APTN's Angel Moore reports.
With the start of the elver commercial season, roughly 60 members of the Sibäganagadi First Nation are harvesting elvers under their treaty rights. John Michael is a fisherman from the Sibäganagadi First Nation.
Well, we had it right before this all started. We signed a paper back in 1752 that says we can do this. And one of the things that I find where we need to show support as you can't license a right.
Sibäganagadi, Millbrook, and Member 2 First Nations are united together under their own fishery regulations and management plans. And any seizures or arrests are an infringement of treaty rights. Damon Howe is from the Millbrook First Nation. He said his nets were seized by fisheries officers earlier that night.
And we had the right to self-govern, and Millbrook First Nation started their own plan, and I was following the plan as far as that goes, and they still seize my gear.
The peace and friendship treaties say the Mi'kmaq have a right to harvest and sell natural resources. Amy Maloney came to support her family. Her dad was Chief Reg Maloney. He refused to sign a deal with DFO in the early 2000s.
Because it's a right that is given to us through birth, and it's not something that we can bargain with. It's solid.
The catch for the night was low. The rivers are still cold and the elvers stay in the mud to keep warm. But it is a learning experience for the youth of the community to fish under their treaty rights.
As we've always been strong, we've always stayed true to what our elders set in place for us, and we will back it up. And I find if we don't do it, then what are we setting up for our grandkids?
The Department of Fisheries and Oceans confirmed to APTN News no arrests have been made. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Eastern Nova Scotia.
Comments allegedly made on social media by 2 Alberta doctors have come to light this past week, sparking enough outrage to get a petition going with the intention to launch an investigation and suspend one of the doctors. But there's much more to this story. Veronica Blackhawk has the details.
This isn't the first time 2 Alberta doctors are receiving backlash over the comments. Someone posted them before in 2021. Hateful comments directed at Indigenous people about residential schools and missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. We now know the viral posts this week were not written by Dr. Laffin or Dr. Tran. The profiles are fake, but the latest posting is causing damage to their reputations for a second time. On Monday, a petition was started on change.org. It got over 5,700 signatures in less than 48 hours. It originally had screenshots and videos as part of the campaign. Now midweek, that petition is closed. The petition has been updated by Hans McCarthy, who identifies as a First Nations advocate. They say new information came to light during a court order from 2021, where Laffin tried to have Facebook release the identity of the account holder, but was unsuccessful. The petition maker, McCarthy, is also apologizing and says they don't want to cause further harm. APTN reached out to Dr. Laffin, and in an email, he said he is unsure why he was targeted and that narratives like this undermine the real struggles impacting Indigenous communities. Laffin said, quote, "I will continue to try and identify the creator of these fraudulent posts, and until that time, will continue to openly address the posts whenever they appear," unquote. The College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta also released a statement. Shared on April 1st, the college said the comments were made by fraudulent accounts. They launched an investigation in 2021 and say they are making another statement now because it is a serious matter. In a written statement on their website, the college says it's disheartening to see these comments resurface and that racism and discrimination have no place in healthcare. While this was just a hoax, there is still an opportunity to learn from this. Experts say, check the source. Are they reliable? And is there more than one source? While it's rare and hard to prove, it is possible to be sued and held liable for defamation of character, even simply for sharing viral posts.
A new episode of APTN Investigates is coming up right here after the news. We'll bring you a preview after the break. Welcome back to APTN National News Weekend. The 2025 Juno Awards were held in Vancouver this past week. From the orange carpet to the big stage to the historic wins. Indigenous talent from across the country shined bright. APTN's Tina House was there and has more.
The Junos 2025 rolled into Vancouver with a bang as the best of Canadian talent came to celebrate and be honored for their achievements. Kicking it off with a week-long block party hosted by Let's Hear It BC. For 5 days, all across the city, audiences were treated to free live performances and their chance at holding the coveted Juno for photo ops. Here at the Carnegie Community Centre, more free concerts showcased Juno nominees, including Adrian Sutherland, who comes from James Bay, Ontario. And this year, there were 67 nominations for the 20 Indigenous artists who were nominated. Adrian was nominated in the Contemporary Indigenous Artist or Group of the Year category.
This is a huge number. I think it's a huge win, and it's a real, it's really good for music, you know, overall. So awesome, and congratulations to all of the other Indigenous artists and nominees.
And many of those artists were nominated in mainstream categories. The Snotty Nose Rez Kids were up for Rap Album of the Year, which was announced at a gala the night before the televised awards.
And the Juno for Rap Album EP goes to, should we say together? Snotty.
We caught up with the Snotty Nose Rez Kids to talk about their first-time win.
Enjoying the moment.
Yeah.
Enjoying the moment.
It was a moment that was able to like freeze time for us. That's what it felt like. Yeah. It's crazy.
Rap Album of the Year, Junos 2025. Did you guys think this would ever happen?
Yeah, I did think this was going to happen, and I thought it was going to happen for this album. And you know, like that's what it is about Red Future. It's about seeing yourself in where you want to be. You know, and that's like just to go, like even our the single of the year, we got a nomination for that, Big Braid Energy. It's about finding your confidence, finding who you are, and just being proud of that.
Here on the orange carpet, it was the who's who in the music industry, including rapper Maestro Fresh Wes.
I'm excited to perform, man. I'm opening it up with Michael Bublé. You know what I'm saying? So you got Bublé and you got some bars, so it's gonna be dope.
Canadian rockers Sum 41 also walked the carpet and played their final show at the awards. Elissa P., who is from Saluit, Nunavik, won a mainstream category Juno Award for Adult Alternative Album of the Year, which was announced on Saturday night at the gala.
I'm just very moved to see how this album and what I do, the songs that I bring out there have an impact on people. I think that's such a privilege. So I'm just want to say, I love you, I feel you, I just want to, I'm just really happy also that everything feels like things are widening up and getting bigger, and we can actually feel like we are being seen and heard, and we can fly high.
Tia Woods from the Saddle Lake Cree First Nation was also nominated in the Contemporary Indigenous Artist or Group of the Year category. She's performing for the live televised awards. She walked the orange carpet with her mom and grandma by her side.
I always say, you know, whenever I step onto any stage or into any room, I have the strength of my people on me, you know, like my res, the matriarchs that have come before me. And, you know, I would just say, you know,
we're at a very special time right now when it comes to Indigenous representation. We're just at the brink of it. You know, we're seeing ourselves on runways and on the radio and on TV, and it's just the tip of the iceberg, and it's coming. There's a wave coming.
I love it. What do you want to say about your granddaughter tonight?
Oh, I feel like I won the Juno, just being there. I'm so proud of her.
Sebastian Gaskin won the Contemporary Indigenous Artist or Group of the Year Juno Award, and the Black Bear Singers walked away with the Traditional Indigenous Artist or Group of the Year Juno Award.
It feels really good. It's like a huge accomplishment for the group, for the families back home.
And finally, it was time for the Snotty Nose Res Kids and Tia Wood to perform live at the 2025 Juno Awards. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Congrats to all the winners. Coming up in just a few minutes, the conclusion to APTN Investigates special three-part series, Inside Policing, where APTN Investigates asks, who's watching the watchers? Here's a preview.
I've been reporting for more than 2 decades. In that time, Indigenous people standing up for their rights have continually faced the full weight of the state's power.
Don't point your gun at me! Take your gun off of me!
From frontline clashes with specialized RCMP units to being spied on by Canada's intelligence agency, and more recently, clashes with private security staffed by ex-cops and ex-military. But first, I head into the mountains, driving to Blue River, a tiny town 2.5 hours outside of Kamloops.
Good morning, how are you doing?
Mayuk, along with her partner Aisha Jules, have returned to what's called the Tiny House Warriors encampment, set up right beside what was the TMX pipeline workers camp. The camp's empty now, the workers gone. They recall its construction.
There was no selective logging. The whole forest floor had wild blueberries, and those are Suquamish women's medicine.
They did not go cheap on this at all. They got it done fast, and they hired the people to do it.
You know, you want to deal with title and rights in this country, you're going to meet with the RCMP, not with a politician. And I met with a lot of RCMPs, even just at this gate, over our title and rights. Go check it out.
And you can catch Watching the Watchers in less than a minute from now. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this weekend. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy Miigwech, thanks for being with us. Have a great night.